What is the stupidest thing you thought as a child? I thought burglary was a profession and that criminals' shifts started when the sun set and they'd be on all night robbing houses. To calm my fears, I would put my blinds up a little, lay down in a pile of stuffed animals and freeze, staring out the window. My thought was I'd look like a doll, and if a burglar saw me through the window, they wouldn't realize I was a human, and then I could get up and call 911 when they looked away. I fell asleep in that stuffed animal pile every night for 2 years. When I was a kid, I thought ice cream sandwiches were literally 2 pieces of bread with ice cream in the middle. I really wanted one. I went to ask my mom if I could have one while she was napping, and she half-consciously said we didn't have any. I said, "That's okay. I'll make one." She said nothing. I quickly learned ice cream sandwiches were not, in fact, 2 pieces of white bread with a spoonful of vanilla ice cream in the middle. Not me, but my son. He didn't want us to get a new TV because he liked the shows on the old one. That the eject button on my dad's car would send me flying through the roof. When we were little, my twin sister was convinced that chicken, beef, etc. was produced by vacuuming the meat out of a living animal. The animal would then walk around all wobbly and meatless until more meat grew back. I thought catching on fire as an adult is common because of all the fire safety in elementary and them beating stop, drop, and roll into our heads. I thought people died by blowing the candles on their 100 years party. I just thought that people died when they turned 100. My mom knew this person who was either 98 or 99, and so I said, "So she's either going to be 99 or she's going to die," and my mom agreed. 6 was just making out with no clothes on. I feel like we all thought this at one point. I noticed that I was able to jump off of the playground and land on my feet and be perfectly fine, so my child mind immediately decided I was a superhero and could land from any height and be perfectly fine. I went to my friend's house, jumped off his roof, and the next thing I remember is crying until my mom picked me up. I thought that Boral 6 was a slang term for French kissing, and therefore Banal 6 must mean 2 people standing back to back, rubbing butts. I thought that any time any woman went to the hospital, it was to have a baby. My 98-year-old great-grandmother was in the hospital, and all I wanted to know is when the baby was gonna get here. I'm sure this is pretty common, but I used to think before color TV everything was black and white. I remember as a child asking my nan what it was like when they saw color for the first time. Asking mine that question would result in a racist tirade. That the sun never set, and the night sky was just a giant, black tarp with holes poked into it, and the sunlight shining through made the stars. I couldn't fathom how thermoses worked. People told me that they keep hot things hot, and cold things cold. But I was like, how in the fuck does it know whether the thing inside it is hot or cold so as to keep it that way? Took me many a year to figure that out. I used to believe I could save up my hots and my colds to use them later. For example, if it was really hot outside, I would whisper, "Save up all these hots." Then when I would get cold, I would summon the extra hots by whispering, "Give me all my hots," and it was supposed to make me warmer. When I was around 6, my mom's grandmother passed away and my dad's father passed away. I told my mom that her grandfather should marry my dad's mom so they wouldn't be lonely. My address was 25,029. My parents told me that represented my mom's age 25 and dad's age 29 when they got married, and the 0 was for how many kids they had at the time. As a little kid I thought that rule mom's age of kids, dad's age applied to all home addresses. I would always see houses with addresses like 05785 or something and wonder how a 5-year-old married an 85-year-old and already had 7 kids, smiley face. I believed this for far longer than I'm happy to admit. I thought that every song that played on the radio was being performed somewhere live, and when you turned up the volume the singer would sing louder at his/her venue. That if two artists made a song together it must mean they are a couple. I thought Donnie and Marie were a married couple for so long, found out they were siblings and was like you. But they're married. I had seen photos of some sperm cells and thought that their shape was pretty similar to a dickhead gland's penis. This made me think that the dickhead is a sperm cell and every man has one sperm cell at a time. Whenever you have sexual intercourse the dickhead just passes into the woman and your penis is left there without a head. There was a Skittles commercial where they put some Skittles in the ground and they grew into a Skittles tree. I tried growing a Skittles tree at the park for about 3 years before my family moved. When I was 3 or 4, I asked my dad where babies come from. I got whole sperm egg equals baby, which made some kind of sense. Then I asked where the sperm comes from, and he said it comes from the daddy's penis. Unfortunately or maybe fortunately, I stopped asking questions there, and had a mental picture of my dad peeing through a tea strainer and catching a little flopping tadpole, which he would then stuff into my mom's vagina. It took a few years before I was disabused of that notion, probably on the playground at school. I was told that God lived up in the sky. For some reason, the highest thing I could imagine was the pipe sticking out of the neighbor's roof. So I thought God lived in the pipe. I have a friend who teaches. A kid asked her when they give money at church, how does a church get it to God? My friend jokingly said they tie it to a balloon and let it float up to heaven. The kid said he was going to ask her pastor if she could watch next time they did it. My friend teaches high school juniors. Sometime around age 11 I heard about strap-ons, but I never saw a photo and was confused as to what they were or how they worked. My assumption was that it was a dildo, but instead of going outward I thought it went in. I thought women were walking around with a dildo inside of them while just shopping or whatever. For a few years whenever I saw a woman in public smiling I thought that maybe they had a dildo strapped in them. Every year the trees in our yard would lose their leaves. Every year my dad raked up the leaves and put them into yard waste bags. With me so far? Kid logic dictated that my dad kept the bags of leaves in the shed, so he could glue them back onto the trees next spring. I did not grow up to become an arborist. I used to think that the money offering collected at church would be put into a huge cannon to be shot up to heaven for Jesus. My dad told me that Tiger Woods had a brother called Lion Woods. When I was about 6 I used to think sex was just a hug because my parents called it a special cuddle and I knew it had something to do with the balls. So I thought when a man and women hugged the balls went through the man's skin and into the woman's body, they neither came back or regrew. I'm a little fuzzy on the detail but I concluded that if two men hugged they would just swap balls, so I punched myself in the balls, went and hugged my brother for the ultimate prank. I asked him, do your balls hurt, and he was like no. So realized I had just punched myself in the balls for no reason. I thought Santa hated me because he didn't give me presents on Christmas. I'm Jewish and my parents didn't want me to be that kid who told his classmates that Santa doesn't exist, so I ended up believing in Santa until I was about 8, when I saw two mall Santas get into a fight in the parking lot of the mall. I thought Britney Spears wrote a song about my doctor. I'm not that innocent translated to I'm not Dr. Addison. Like okay Britney, I get it, you aren't my doctor lol. I thought that the Holocaust was horrible because they were only given them cornbread to eat. I did not know that people were killed there. That vaginas were on the front. I see this a lot. Conversely, I thought for a long time that dicks were directly between the legs. All dogs were male. All cats were female. My stepdad told me if I ate too much chicken I would have feathers under my arms like grandma. Totally bought it. Well, I thought for years the Smurfs were green. We lived in communist Poland and our once color TV turned into a mostly green/white TV over time. I was shocked, and a teenager, when I realized the lil fuckers are a different color. I thought I could see air particles. I was just seeing floaters. I also thought I could just pull out my eyelashes. I was just hearing the pop of my entire eyelid being lifted and popping back into contact with the eye. I had a fear of telescopes as I thought if I wasn't careful with them I'd be abducted by aliens. I used to play The Sims a lot,